Johnny Carson stopped his monologue, opened an envelope on live TV, and within 60 seconds was crying uncontrollably. The letter from a terminally ill child didn't ask for anything but what it said would quietly save thousands of lives. March 15th, 1982. Studio One in Burbank, California. Just another Monday night. The audience was laughing at Johnny's Reagan impression. Ed McMahon was doing his trademark chuckle from behind his desk. Doc Severinsen and the band were waiting for their cue. Then Michael Torres, a stagehand who'd worked the show for 7 years, stepped into the lights. The audience noticed first. A few laughs ended mid-breath. Then a confused murmur rippled through the rows. Johnny stopped talking. Just stopped. Michael walked straight up to him, holding a manila envelope like it was made of glass. Johnny's face did something the audience rarely saw. Real confusion. Michael leaned in, whispered something urgently. Johnny's eyebrows went up. He took the envelope with both hands, looked at it, then looked at Michael like he was trying to understand what was happening. The audience was completely silent now. Ed McMahon sat forward in his chair. Doc Severinsen lowered his trumpet. 20 million people watching at home leaned closer to their screens. Johnny turned the envelope over. Written across the front in blue ink. Urgent. From Children's Hospital, Portland. Open immediately. Please. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice different now. Something happened. I think we need to find out together. He didn't go to commercials. He just opened it right there on live television. His fingers worked at the seal. The only sound was the envelope tearing. Johnny pulled out several pieces of paper. Handwritten. In crayon. Some pages in pink. Some in blue. Some in waxy green. A child's handwriting. Careful letters. Some words crossed out and rewritten. Johnny held the pages, scanning the first lines. The camera caught it. That moment when his expression changed. When the entertainer disappeared and just the man remained. His jaw tightened. Ed stood up from his desk. Johnny, you okay? Johnny looked up at the audience. Folks, he said, I've been doing this show for a long time, but I've never done what I'm about to do right now. He held up the letter. This is from an 8-year-old girl named Sarah Mitchell, and she needs me to read this to you. He cleared his throat, adjusted his reading glasses, looked down at that first page, and began to read. He paused before the first word. His finger traced the uneven crayon letters. You could see him registering the weight of what he was holding, not just paper, but a child's last act of courage. Someone in the front row whispered, "Oh no," so quietly the microphones barely caught it. But Johnny heard it. Everyone heard it. The entire studio seemed to contract, to hold its breath, waiting for what was about to break all of them open. Dear Mr. Carson, my name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 8 years old. I'm writing this from my hospital bed because the doctors say I won't get to write many more letters. Johnny's voice was already different. Not the smooth Carson voice 20 million people knew, but something smaller, something vulnerable. The audience sat frozen. I have a brain tumor. I've had 4 surgeries, and the doctors tried really hard, but it keeps growing back. Now I'm in a special place where they make you comfortable when the medicine stops working. That's what the nice doctor told my mom. I wasn't supposed to hear, but I did. A woman in the 3rd row covered her mouth. Ed McMahon's face had gone still. I don't watch much television because it hurts my head. But my nurse, Miss Patricia, turns on your show every night at 11:30. She says it's her reward for getting through the day. She sits in the chair next to my bed, and we watch you together. What Johnny didn't know was that Patricia Chen was 26 years old, first year out of nursing school, pediatric oncology. She barely held it together most nights. I can't always stay awake for the whole show. Sometimes I fall asleep during the monologue, but I always try really hard because when you tell jokes, Miss Patricia laughs. And when she laughs, something amazing happens. She stops looking so tired. She stops looking so sad. The first tear rolled down Johnny's cheek. He didn't wipe it away. The camera operator on camera 2 zoomed in without being asked. The tear traced down Johnny's face, catching the studio lights. A woman in the 2nd row started crying. Her daughter was 7. See, Mr. Carson, Miss Patricia takes care of kids like me, kids who are really sick, and I know it makes her sad. I see her in the hallway sometimes after she leaves my room. She stands there by herself, trying not to cry where anyone can see her. Johnny's hand trembled slightly. Someone in the third row was sobbing. Last week, I asked her why she does this job if it makes her so sad. She said, "Because someone has to love you, Sarah. Someone has to make sure you're not scared. Someone has to hold your hand." That's when I understood something important, Mr. Carson. Johnny stopped. Put the letter down on his desk. Ed started to walk over, but Johnny held up his hand. "I need to finish this. Miss Patricia needs someone to make her smile so she can keep being brave for kids like me. That's what you do, Mr. Carson. Every single night, you help her remember why she does what she does. You don't know it, but you're helping her take care of me." Johnny looked up from the letter. His face was wet. Doc Severinsen had his head down. The boom operator had removed his headset. Johnny held up the remaining pages. There was more, and what Sarah Mitchell wrote next would break something open in everyone watching. 3 weeks before, Patricia Chen had watched Sarah asking for paper and crayons for the third night in a row. "I want to write to Mr. Carson," Sarah kept saying. Patricia knew better. Famous people don't read their mail. She couldn't bear the thought of Sarah writing to someone who'd never know she existed. But Sarah kept asking. "Every single night, I need to write to him, Miss Patricia. It's important." Finally, Patricia brought construction paper and crayons from the playroom. "Okay, sweetie, we'll write your letter." It took 4 nights. Sarah's hands shook so badly, Patricia had to help her hold the crayon. The handwriting got messier as the nights went on. Sarah would write a sentence, rest, write another sentence. Patricia sat beside her the whole time in room 407, watching this 8-year-old pour her heart onto paper. When Sarah finished, she handed the pages to Patricia with both hands. Patricia read it through and started crying because Sarah hadn't written to ask for anything. She'd written to say thank you. Patricia mailed it herself the next morning. Added her own note. "Please, if there's any way this could reach Mr. Carson, she's running out of time." Patricia had stood at the hospital mailbox for 10 minutes that morning, Sarah's letter in her trembling hands. She almost didn't mail it. Famous people have publicists, assistants, layers of protection against the desperate letters from children with terminal illnesses. The envelope would probably sit in some pile, unopened, eventually thrown away. Sarah would never know, but Patricia would. She'd know she'd let this little girl's final wish disappear into nothing. But then she remembered Sarah's face when she'd finished writing. The relief. The peace. Sarah believed her words mattered. Patricia couldn't take that away from her, even if Johnny Carson never saw them. So she wrote her own note on the hospital letterhead. "Mr. Carson, this child has weeks left. She spent her last good energy thanking you for making me smile. If there's any humanity left in Hollywood, please let her know her words reach someone." She sealed it, said a prayer, and dropped it in the box before she could change her mind. But someone in the mailroom saw the crayon handwriting, flagged it, rushed it to Fred de Cordova, who kept it on his desk for 3 days. Tonight was Johnny's first show back from a week off. Too sad, they'd said, too heavy. But they knew Johnny would want to see it. So Michael Torres walked onto that stage with an envelope that was about to change everything. Johnny took a breath and continued reading. "Mr. Carson, I need to tell you something important before I go to heaven." Johnny's voice shook. "I've been watching Miss Patricia for 6 months now. She takes care of kids like me who are very sick, and sometimes we pass away, and it makes her so sad. Last week, another little boy named Marcus was in the room next to mine. He liked dinosaurs, and Miss Patricia would make dinosaur sounds to make him laugh. Then one morning, Marcus wasn't there anymore, and I saw Miss Patricia in the hallway afterward." Johnny had to stop. His hands were trembling. Ed McMahon stood, handkerchief pressed to his face. She was trying not to cry where anyone could see her. "But I saw her, Mr. Carson. She was standing by the window and her shoulders were shaking. I wanted to go hug her, but I couldn't get out of bed by myself anymore." A sob broke through somewhere in the audience. "So I asked the day nurse to wheel me out. I asked Miss Patricia why she does this job. She looked at me for a really long time. Then she sat down right there on the floor next to my wheelchair. She said, 'Sarah, someone has to love you. Someone has to make sure you know you matter. That's what I do. I love the children who need it most.'" Johnny's voice broke completely. The studio was silent except for crying. The studio felt smaller somehow. That's when I understood something really important. Miss Patricia thinks her job is taking care of kids like me, but I think her job is even bigger. She has to be brave every single day. She has to smile even when her heart is breaking. She has to keep loving us even when she knows how our stories are going to end. His eyes were red. His voice is unrecognizable. But Mr. Carson, here's what I figured out, Johnny read, barely above a whisper. Miss Patricia needs someone to make her smile so she can keep being brave. She needs someone to remind her that there's still good in the world, that there's still laughter, that there's still hope. He put his hand over his mouth. His shoulders shook, and that's what you do. Every single night, you make Miss Patricia laugh. You help her remember why she does what she does. You give her the strength to come back the next night and love us all over again. You're helping nurses like Miss Patricia be heroes. This wasn't the Tonight Show anymore. This was just a man holding a letter from a little girl who understood something most adults never figure out. I'm not writing to ask you for anything. I'm writing to say thank you. Thank you for making the people who help me smile. Thank you for helping the heroes nobody sees. Johnny set the letter down. I tried to speak. Couldn't. The silence stretched out. 30 seconds. 45. A full minute. Finally, he picked up the pages again. If stories like Sarah's remind you what truly matters in life, subscribe to this channel, because the stories we need to hear aren't always the loudest ones. They're the quiet acts of courage that change everything. Hit that subscribe button. There are more stories like this that deserve to be told. There's more. And what she wrote in these last pages is something everyone needs to hear. Johnny's hands shook as he turned to the last page, written in handwriting so unsteady it was barely readable. Mr. Carson, I probably won't be here when you get this letter. That's okay. I'm not scared. The audience gasped. Several people stood up. I'm not scared because I know Miss Patricia will be there holding my hand, she promised. And I know my mom will be okay because she has people like you who make her smile. I know I matter because Miss Patricia told me I do, and I believe her. Johnny put his head down. His shoulders shook. Ed walked over, put his hand on Johnny's shoulder. But Mr. Carson, I need to ask you to do something. Could you tell Miss Patricia she's my hero? Not because she's a nurse, but because she loves us, even when she knows it's going to hurt her. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. A woman sobbing into her husband's shoulder. A young nurse with tears streaming. A man with his hand over his heart. This was a church. And could you tell all the nurses watching that kids like me see how hard you try? We see you fighting for us. We see you staying late. We see you holding our parents when they can't hold it together. I know you think you weren't there for us when we passed away. Miss Patricia thinks that, but you were there, Mr. Carson. You give us love when we need it most. You make us feel like we're not just sick kids. You make us feel like we're people who matter. That's everything. Johnny picked it up one more time. Thank you for making the people who saved us smile. Thank you for helping them be strong enough to keep loving us. With love, Sarah Mitchell. Age 8, room 407. Johnny finished reading and just sat there, holding those pages like they were the most important thing in the world. He just sat at that famous desk and cried. I really cried. This had never happened before. But that wasn't Johnny Carson anymore. That was just a man who'd read 8 pages from a little girl who understood more about courage than he'd understood in 56 years. Ed McMahon stood next to him. Doc Severinsen had put his trumpet down. The cameras kept rolling. Johnny finally looked up. I don't know what to say. I've been doing this show for 19 years, and I don't know what to say. He looked into camera 1. Sarah, if you can somehow hear this, you are the bravest person I have ever heard from. And I promise you, everyone is going to know what you said here tonight. Johnny stood up, still holding the letter. And what happened in the next 90 seconds would become the most replayed moment in Tonight Show history. Fred, Johnny said, his voice rough, get me Children's Hospital Portland on the phone, right now. The audience gasped. Johnny, what are you doing? I need Patricia Chen, the night nurse. Get her on the phone. Johnny, we're alive. I know, that's the point. Do it now, Fred. This had never happened before, but Johnny wasn't asking. He sat down and waited. Do you want me to go to a commercial? No, we're doing this now. The silence that followed was excruciating. The audience didn't know what to do. Some moments you can't schedule. Sarah wrote this letter and I need to know. I need to talk to the person she wrote about. A production assistant handed Johnny a phone. It's ringing. The entire studio could hear it. Ring. Ring. Then a click. Children's Hospital, Portland. Pediatric Wing. This is Johnny Carson. I'm calling from The Tonight Show. I need to speak to Patricia Chen. Is this a joke? Ma'am, I'm on live television. 20 million people are waiting. I need to speak to Patricia Chen immediately. Hold, please. Hold music started playing. Johnny sat there with the phone to his ear. The audience could hear it. Johnny looked at Sarah's letter. Someone has to love you, Sarah. She's 8 years old, he said. The music kept playing. 60 seconds, 70, then a click. Hello? Is this Patricia Chen? Yes? Who is this? This is Johnny Carson. I'm calling from The Tonight Show. I'm on the air. I just read a letter from Sarah Mitchell. A sharp intake of breath, then crying. Immediate, uncontrollable crying. Patricia, I'm here. Is this really you? It's really me. I read Sarah's letter on television tonight. Oh God, she actually mailed it. Patricia, I need to ask you. Sarah. He couldn't say it. Patricia's sob came through. She passed away yesterday morning. Yesterday. She left us peacefully. I was holding her hand just like I promised. I was supposed to be strong, Patricia said through tears that 20 million people could hear. I'm supposed to be professional. But I loved her, Mr. Carson. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. You were supposed to, Johnny said, his voice cracking. That's exactly what you were supposed to do. She asked me the night before if I'd remember her. An 8-year-old child worried about being forgotten. I told her I'd remember her forever. I told her she changed me. And she smiled. Mr. Carson. She smiled and said, Good, because you changed me too. How does a child facing the end think about changing other people? Johnny couldn't speak. The camera showed his face wet with tears, his hand gripping the phone so hard his knuckles were white. She made me promise I wouldn't quit. Patricia continued. She said other kids would need me. She said I was good at loving people who needed it most. Those were her last real words to me before the morphine took her voice. The gasp through Studio One was audible. Johnny's face crumpled. Ed turned away. 20 million people were watching two strangers grieve together over a little girl neither could save. For the next 7 minutes, 20 million Americans watched something that had never been on television before. Patricia. I tried to stop her from writing that letter. I didn't want her to be disappointed. She wasn't writing for a response, Patricia. She was writing to say thank you. Tell me about Sarah. She was 6 when they found the tumor. By the time they got her to the hospital, it was too big. They tried surgery, then another surgery. For 2 years, she fought Mr. Carson. 2 years of pain. Even in her last days, she was worried about me. She'd ask if I was okay. An 8-year-old child who was leaving this world was taking care of me. How do you do it? How do you love these children when you know? When I know I'm going to lose them? Because someone has to, Mr. Carson. Someone has to make sure they know they're loved. And Sarah made it easy. Patricia. Sarah wrote that you're her hero. She's mine. Sarah is my hero. She taught me more about courage than I could ever teach her. She showed me what it means to think of others, even when you're suffering. I want to do something, Patricia. Just what you did tonight. You read her letter. You made her feel like she mattered. She did matter. Her words are going to help people. They already are. Thank you for seeing her. Sarah was right about you. You're exactly the kind of person the world needs. They said goodbye. Johnny hung up, sat in complete silence. The audience didn't applaud. They just sat there. The show went to commercials. Johnny didn't move. Fred approached. Johnny, we've got 40 minutes left. We can bring out Burt Reynolds. I'm not doing comedy tonight. I can't. Johnny, we have a show to finish. I don't care. I'm done for tonight. The Tonight Show had never ended early. We're not going to pretend that didn't happen. We're not going to make jokes like Sarah Mitchell didn't just remind us what actually matters. Tell them the truth. Tell them I'm human. The cameras came back on. Folks, I'm not going to finish the show tonight. I know that's not what you came here for, but I can't do that right now. He held up Sarah's letter. This 8-year-old girl wrote to say thank you. She used her last good days to make sure Patricia Chen knew she was appreciated. Sarah understood something most of us miss. We're all connected. The work we do matters. The kindness we show matters. The people we help when nobody's watching matter most of all. If you're a pediatric nurse watching this, I want to hear from you. Write to me, NBC, Burbank, California. And if you know a nurse like Patricia, call them tomorrow, tonight. Tell them thank you. Tell them what they do matters. The show's over. I'm going to sit here for a while and think about Sarah Mitchell. Think about Patricia Chen. Think about all the people doing hard things with grace and love and courage. The cameras kept rolling as Johnny sat back down. The credits started. But there was no music. Just silence. Just Johnny Carson reading Sarah's letter again while America watched. The credits rolled. Every name scrolls past. The camera pushed in. You could see his lips moving. Thank you for making the people who saved us smile. The audience sat in silence, bearing witness. Somewhere in America, a nurse working the night shift was watching. She'd been having a hard week. 3 kids weren't doing well. She'd been thinking about quitting. She watched Johnny Carson holding that letter, and she started crying. But she didn't quit. The credits ended. The screen faded to black. Johnny was still sitting there. Back at NBC, the phone lines lit up. All of them. Thousands of calls. Nurses wanting to share stories. Families wanting to say thank you. People who'd been changed by 7 minutes of unscripted humanity. By morning, NBC had received 47,000 letters. By week's end, 200,000. Sarah Mitchell's letter had opened a floodgate. The NBC mailroom on Tuesday looked like chaos. Jerry Martinez, the supervisor, stood in the doorway and stared. His assistant Linda was reading a letter with tears in her eyes. This is from a nurse in Boston. She says this is the first time anyone's thanked her. Jerry read over her shoulder. Sarah gave us permission to grieve. We're taught to stay strong, be professional. But she reminded us we're human too. We hurt, we break, and that's okay. What do we do with these? We get them to Johnny. All of them. Johnny's assistant found him at 4 a.m, surrounded by letters. He'd been reading since midnight. Johnny, you should go home. Listen to this one. Seattle. A nurse named Margaret. She writes, I've loved and lost 43 children. I remember every name, and I've never told anyone how much it costs me. But Sarah saw us, and now I don't feel so alone. He meant it. Johnny read every letter. For the next week, he came in early. Read until his eyes hurt. Monday night's show opened differently. Folks, I want to read you something. This is from Carol Henderson, a pediatric oncology nurse in Miami. Dear Mr. Carson, I watched you read Sarah's letter, and I haven't stopped crying. Grateful crying. Because Sarah reminded me why I do this work. Last month, I lost a little boy named Daniel. He was 5. I held his hand when he passed away, and afterward I sobbed for 20 minutes. I thought I was weak, but Sarah taught me that loving someone enough to grieve them isn't a weakness. That's the whole point. Carol, if you're watching, you're not weak. You're the strongest person I know. The audience erupted. This continued every night that week. Different nurses. Same message. Sarah had given them permission to be human. In Chicago, a nurse named Rebecca called in sick for the first time in 8 years, just so she could watch. In Atlanta, an entire pediatric unit gathered around a television in the break room, holding each other as Johnny read letter after letter. In small towns and major cities, nurses who'd been silent about their grief for years finally felt permission to cry. Sarah's words had unlocked something, a collective exhale from thousands of people who love children with terminal illnesses and never talked about the cost. Drop a comment below and tell me, who's the unsung hero in your life? The nurse? The teacher? The caregiver? Who changed you? Let's make sure they're seen. Sarah reminded us to thank the invisible heroes. Your comment might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. On Thursday, Patricia Chen flew to Los Angeles. Johnny had arranged it. She sat backstage, nervous, wearing a dress she'd bought for this. Are you ready? Not really, but Sarah would want me to do this. We have someone very special tonight. Please welcome Patricia Chen. The applause started before Patricia walked out. She stepped onto the stage, and the entire audience stood up. Patricia froze. I started crying. Johnny walked over, took her hand, and led her to the chair. 3 full minutes of strangers applauding a 26-year-old nurse who'd loved an 8-year-old girl who passed away in room 407. Patricia, thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Carson. Please, call me Johnny. Tell me about Sarah. What was she like? She was funny. Really funny. She loved knock-knock jokes, even the terrible ones. What was her favorite? Knock knock. Who's there? Interrupting cow. Interrupting cow. Wah-moo! And the audience laughed, and for a moment Sarah was alive again. How do you keep going? Because Sarah was right. Someone has to love them. I can't save them, but I can love them while they're here. That's not nothing. That's everything, Patricia. 2 weeks later, Johnny chartered a plane, flew to Portland on a Sunday, spent the day at Children's Hospital. He asked to see room 407. This is where we watched you. This is where she wrote the letter. Johnny sat in that chair. Just sat there, looking at the bed where Sarah had been. He sat for an hour. Nobody took pictures. She's everywhere here, isn't she? In every room, every child, every nurse who remembers. Before Johnny left, he met with the hospital administrator, set up something nobody would know about for years, the Sarah Mitchell Courage and Caregiving Scholarship, $50,000 a year. For pediatric oncology nurses. The only condition, nobody could know while he was alive. This isn't about me. This is about Sarah. Patricia Chen was the first recipient. Over 10 years, more than 200 nurses received funding, and Johnny attended their graduations. Everyone. Quietly. He'd sit in the back wearing sunglasses. He wanted to see the ripples that one 8-year-old girl had created. And the ripples kept spreading. All because she'd taken the time to say thank you. One 8-year-old girl. One letter. Over 1,000 nurses trained. Tens of thousands of children were loved. That's the power of saying thank you to the people who need it most. If this story moved you, share it. Send it to a nurse, a caregiver, a teacher, anyone who loves people for a living. Because Sarah's message didn't stop in 1982, it's still spreading. And maybe your share will reach exactly the person who needs to hear. What you do matters. We see you. Thank you. Here's what people don't understand about March 15th, 1982. It wasn't special because Johnny Carson cried on television. It was special because an 8-year-old girl reminded 20 million people that heroism isn't always loud. Sarah Mitchell never asked for anything for herself. She used her final days to write a thank you letter. That's a level of selflessness most of us never reach. And Johnny Carson saw it immediately. He made sure her words reached everyone who needed to hear them. The ripple effect never stopped. Johnny helped Patricia find strength. Patricia helped Sarah leave this world with dignity. And because Johnny created those scholarships, hundreds of nurses have helped thousands of children. One letter. Infinite ripples. When Johnny retired in 1992, he mentioned Sarah by name. 10 years ago, a little girl taught me what courage really looks like. It's about loving people even when you know you'll lose them. Patricia Chen, watching from Portland, understood. She called Johnny. They talked for 2 hours. Here's what nobody knew until after Johnny passed away in 2005. He'd called Patricia once a month for 23 years, just checking in, making sure she was still okay. Patricia spoke at Johnny's memorial. That's when she revealed everything. The monthly calls, the private visits, the scholarship fund. Johnny wanted to make sure I was still able to love children who were leaving us. He understood what Sarah understood, that the helpers need help too. After Johnny's passing, they found Sarah's letter framed in his home office, right next to photos of his sons, his grandchildren. Thank you for making the people who saved us smile. The legacy is everywhere. Children's Hospital Portland has the Sarah Mitchell Pediatric Oncology Center. Johnny funded it anonymously. $2 million. Today, over 1,000 nurses have received Sarah Mitchell scholarships. They work in hospitals across America. Patricia Chen trains pediatric oncology nurses now. She's 51, been doing this for 25 years. She uses Sarah's letter in every training session. This is why we do what we do. Because someone has to love these children. Sarah wrote that letter not knowing if anyone would read it. She left this world not knowing Johnny got it, never knew about the scholarships or the hospital wing or the 1,000 lives her words would touch. But her letter lives on. Every nurse trained, every child is loved, and every caregiver who feels seen. We're all connected by invisible threads of kindness. Sarah reminded us of that. Johnny made sure we couldn't forget. The real heroes aren't on television. They're in hospital rooms at midnight. And maybe we can all be a little more like Sarah, noticing the helpers, thanking the people who need it most. Sarah wrote that letter holding that crayon in her shaking hand. But here's what she did know, that saying thank you matters, that seeing the invisible heroes matters, that one voice, even a small one, even one that's leaving us, can change everything. Johnny Carson understood that. Patricia Chen lives it every day. And now you know it too. The question is, who are you going to thank today? One letter changed everything. Imagine what your kindness could do. Thanks for watching.